Top 10 Luckiest Unlucky People whose luck nearly killed them. You can't gauge luck. It just isn't quantifiable. However, that doesn't mean there aren't people who are luckier or unluckier than others. That individual who consistently appears to hit their numbers at bingo, or the person who never gets a break, presumably comes to mind. Then there are those people who by one way or another wind up on the two sides of the scale. Somebody who is both lucky and unlucky simultaneously sounds weird. However, there are a couple who've overseen it. These 10 are the luckiest unlucky people, and each had an interesting story to tell. Top 10 luckiest people in the world. 10. Robert Evans. Robert Evans was at that point struggling living without a home in a settlement outside of Boulder, Colorado, in 2008. While riding his bicycle along the street, Evans turned into the unlucky casualty of a quick in-and-out fender bender, which procured him a rescue vehicle ride to the neighborhood hospital. Fortunately, the mishap wasn't serious, and he was released with minor wounds. Strolling his way back to his place to stay, along a thin railroad connect, the one who had endured an auto collision just hours sooner, was hit by a train. The passing train, which thumped him from the extension into a rivulet, would have killed the vast majority. Evans' unusual luck, in the event that you need to consider it that, saw him taken to similar clinics 7 hours after he previously arrived there following the vehicle accident. Jim McPherson of the Boulder Police Department summarized Evans' evening, saying, "He got 2 rescue vehicle rides last evening," McPherson said. "It's an outrageous peculiarity that somebody is hit by a vehicle and a train on that very evening. I can't envision that this has at any point occurred before in Boulder." 9. Violet Jessup. 3 White Star sister ships were associated with extreme mishaps and fiascos, including the RMS Titanic, Olympic, and Britannic. The Titanic is the most popular, however it was just one of 3 comparative Olympic-class sea liners. Serving on board each of the 3 boats was Violet Jessup, a truly lucky, unlucky lady. She endured tuberculosis at an early age, and by 1908, she started functioning as an attendant for the White Star Line, discovering her way on board the Olympic in 1910. That vessel crashed into the HMS Hawke in 1911 and nearly sank. She left and joined the team of the Titanic, which she made do via really focusing on a newborn child on a raft. At the point when war broke out, she served on board the Britannic as a medical caretaker, and you realize what happened next. The Britannic hit a mine, however Jessup wasn't sufficiently lucky to hop into a raft. All things considered, she jumped over the edge and was sucked under the fall, where she hit her head. She made do, with a skull crack. Regardless of her maritime encounters, she kept on working on board different boats, resigning at 61. 8. Matthew. On 9/11, a man named Matthew was strolling along the road under the shadow of the World Trade Center when it was struck. He was en route to a gathering when an airplane hammered into one of the Twin Towers, and he was luckily healthy by any of the falling debris. Following the assault, he ran across half of Manhattan, and made do to recount the story. Having a near calamity with one psychological oppressor assault is sufficiently uncommon, yet for Matthew, it was only the start of his collaboration with terrorists. On November 13, 2015, Matthew was going to an Eagles of Death metal show at the Bataclan in Paris, France, when it was assaulted by fear-mongers equipped with programmed rifles, explosives, and self-destruction vests. The Bataclan assault brought about the passings of 89 people, however Matthew wasn't one of them. He was shot in the leg, yet he made his own luck after that. He played dead, and when the fear-mongers started to reload, he hauled himself to well-being. "I crawled forward centimeter by centimeter. I saw the edge of the exit at arm's range. I had the option to hold it with one finger, then, at that point the other." 7. Arthur John Priest. Arthur John Priest functioned as a stoker, or firefighter, whose work was to keep the boilers of a boat steaming by continually scooping coal. While serving on board the Olympic, he endured when the vessel was struck and holed underneath the waterline in 1911. The after year, he found a new line of work on the Olympic's sister transport, the Titanic. A gigantic cutback saw a large number of his companions lose work, however he made it into the guts of the boat. At the point when it sank, he endured, yet it wasn't the last time he nearly kicked the bucket in a shipwreck. His World War I administration saw him on board the furnished dealer transport Alcantara. A fight saw the vessel sink, and he endured that also. He later served on board the Britannic, the other sister boat to the Olympic and Titanic, and you can think about what occurred. The Britannic hit a mine and sank in November 1916, and priests survived. The following year, the luckiest unlucky mariner in history was serving on board the Donegal when it was hit by a torpedo and sank in the English Channel. He endured, yet it was the last vessel he called home, finishing his tactical profession in 1917 because of a head injury. 6. Roy Cleveland Sullivan. Ordinarily, people don't endure being struck by lightning. A solitary bolt conveys up to 100 million volts, topping at around 20,000 amps, which is all that could possibly be needed to slaughter any living thing on the planet. Still, people endure, however none have endured being struck by lightning as much as Roy Cleveland Sullivan. Sullivan filled in as a recreation center officer in Shenandoah National Park, where he started his profession in 1936. By 1942, he was headed to getting known as the human lightning rod. He was first struck external a fire post pinnacle when a bolt consumed a half-inch strip along his right leg, at last passing over his toenail. He was hit again in 1969 while inside his truck, bringing about the deficiency of his eyebrows and eyelashes. In 1970, he was struck in his front yard. Between 1942 and 1977, Sullivan was struck multiple times, and he endured each case, however, with injury. He was lucky for enduring such countless unlucky occasions, yet it incurred significant damage. Further down the road, people kept away from him out of dread of lightning, and in 1983, he ended his own life at 71 years old. 5. Austin Hatch. It's uncommon enough to endure a solitary plane accident, yet Austin Hatch's line of horrendous luck including planes saw him endure too. In 2003, Hatch was on board a plane his dad was flying when it went down, killing his mom and 2 kin. He wasn't awfully harmed, however the misfortune was hard for the youthful boy. Hatch figured out how to endure the disaster area and grow up sensibly well, taking into account what he went through. Sadly, misfortune wasn't going to strike his family just a single time, and 8 years after the principal crash, he was engaged with another. In June of 2011, Austin Hatch was a traveler in a little plane his dad was flying when misfortune struck again. The plane smashed, bringing about the passing of his dad and stepmother. The youngster left, however he did as such with an awful mind injury, penetrated lung, and a wrecked collarbone, prompting a 2-month-long coma. Surviving the deficiency of his whole family and wounds that nearly killed him didn't annihilate the 23-year-old. He recuperated and proceeded to play schoolball, because of a grant he got at the University of Michigan. He likewise functions as a public speaker, imparting his encounters to the world. 4. Bricklayer Wells. In 2013, Mason Wells was 1 square from the Boston Marathon bombarding, which he endured sound. Regardless of being so near the explosion, Wells was affected by the occasion, however it wouldn't be the lone opportunity he came into contact with illegal intimidation, as he wound up close to another assault across the ocean. A few years after Boston, Wells was in Calais, France, when 3 Americans on a Thalys train curbed a psychological militant. The episode was near and dear, as he utilized the trains week by week to get starting with one city then onto the next. He wasn't a survivor of that assault, yet not long after, he was in Brussels when the air terminal was besieged in 2016. While filling in as a Mormon preacher, Wells was in the air terminal when 3 psychological oppressor individuals from ISIS assaulted, utilizing self-destruction bombs and other touchy gadgets. He was trapped in an impact, which burst his Achilles ligament, exacted 2nd and severely charred areas on all 4s, and peppered his body with shrapnel. His father clarified that Wells endured halfway because of his involvement with the Boston besieging years sooner. He said it assisted him with keeping quiet, and, regardless of being on the ground and dying, he really had a funny bone and resisted the urge to panic through the circumstance. 3. Anna and Helen. As everybody currently realizes generally very well, enduring a pandemic isn't simple, however it's conceivable. A great many people never contract the infection in the event that they play it safe. All things considered, getting tainted can be lethal, particularly if the microorganism is especially dreadful, similar to the influenza strain A, H1N1 that crushed the world somewhere in the range of 1918 and 1920. The Spanish flu asserted some 20 to 100 million people, on account of the quick spread and speed at which the infection killed contaminated people. 2 ladies who were tainted and figured out how to endure the infection were Anna del Priore and her sister, Helen, who were little youngsters during the Spanish flu pandemic. While they weren't the solitary people to endure the pandemic, they are among a little local area of people to endure 2 overall pandemics put over a century aside. Anna and Helen were 105 and 107 years of age separately, when they were tainted by COVID-19. Despite their age at the hour of contamination, the two of them figured out how to defy expectations and endure. Anna clarified how others may prevail with regards to living as long as she and her sister, saying, "Regard others, keep old buddies, be straightforward, love God, and I eat loads of hot peppers." 2. Sutomu Yamaguchi. On August 6, 1945, the United States of America dropped the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, slaughtering around 140,000 people in the impact and resulting radiation. Limited who endure, Sutomu Yamaguchi was going through his last day in the city after a summer spent planning another oil tanker. When the bomb exploded, he figured out how to bounce into a trench. However, the stun wave maneuvered him into the air, turning and plunging him into a close-by potato fix. He was under 2 miles from ground zero. He nearly burst his eardrums, and his face and lower arms were seriously singed, yet he survived. He advanced toward a train and left for his old neighborhood, which was shockingly Nagasaki. After showing up, he advanced toward a medical clinic. On August 9, he was describing his experience to the Mitsubishi organization chief when a glimmer of light external made them jump to the ground one more. Miraculously, while still harmed from the main impact, Yamaguchi endured the second, and so far, just 2 nuclear bombs utilized in war. He later reviewed the Nagasaki impact, saying, "I thought the mushroom cloud had followed me from Hiroshima." 1. Frayne Sellick. Frayne Sellick has endured more lethal mishaps than anybody, procuring him the title of being the world's most unlucky luckiest man. In 1962, Sellick's first brush with death came when he endured a train crash that killed 17 other passengers. In 1963, he took his first ride in a plane, which finished when the entryway opened and sucked him out. He arrived in a sheaf while the plane smashed, executing 19 people. In '66, he endured a transport crash that killed 4 people, and in 1970, his vehicle burst into flames and detonated. However, he figured out how to walk away. 3 years after the fact, a comparative fender bender figured out how to consume off the entirety of his hair, yet he was generally safe. In 1995, he was hit by a transport, and the next year, he nearly hit a vehicle in a head-on crash yet made do by hammering into a guardrail. For whatever reason, passing was continually coming for Sellick, yet he figured out how to stay away from it every step of the way. His luck changed a piece when, 2 days after he turned 73, he won €900,000 in the lottery. He got a few houses and a boat, however gave the vast majority of his rewards away in 2010.